Have you ever wondered how we went from chasing mammoths to scrolling on our phones in cozy houses? It's a long story, but a massive part of it starts with something incredibly simple, a single seed. Let's travel back in time, about 12,0 years ago. Imagine a world without cities, without farms, without even a permanent home. Humans were nomads, constantly on the move, following the seasons and the herds. Life was a daily struggle for survival. Picture this. The men of the tribe have gone on a long hunt, their spears ready. By a shimmering riverbank, a young woman named Nira is watching the water flow. She isn't idle. She's processing the wild grains and the berries gathered earlier. As she works, a few stray grains spill from her basket, falling unnoticed into the soft, damp mud by the river's edge. Life goes on. The hunters return, sometimes with a great catch, sometimes with nothing. The tribe moves on, following the promise of food elsewhere. Weeks, maybe months, pass. The tribe, by chance, returns to the same riverbank. As Nira approaches her old spot, she sees something that makes her stop in her tracks. Right where she had spilled the grains, a cluster of vibrant green shoots is pushing up through the soil. It's the same plant they usually have to search for, growing right here, thicker and healthier than she's ever seen it. It's a moment of pure astonishment. A flicker of an idea, a question, sparks in her mind. What if it wasn't just an accident? Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in human history. And Nira was deeply curious. She decided to try an experiment. She carefully gathered more grains, but this time, she didn't just spill them. She pushed them into the soil with her own fingers, one by one. She chose a spot with good sunlight and easy access to water from the river. Then, she waited. It was an act of faith, a gamble against the unknown. Every day, she checked on her little patch of earth. She watched the sun warm the soil. She saw how the river's water quenched the thirsty ground. It felt like watching a secret magic show. And slowly, miraculously, it happened again. Tiny green shoots emerged, stretching towards the sky. Nira was the first person to witness this incredible partnership between human intention and the power of nature. She learned the language of the earth, sunlight, water, soil. These weren't just elements, they were ingredients in a recipe for life. Nira shared her discovery with the other women of the tribe. At first, they were skeptical. Why waste precious food by burying it? But as they saw her small garden flourish, providing a reliable source of food right at their camp, their skepticism turned to wonder, and then to imitation. They began planting their own small plots. For the very first time in the history of our species, humans didn't have to wander endlessly in search of their next meal. They could stay in one place. They could build a home. This was the beginning of a revolution, a quiet one, fought not with spears, but with seeds and digging sticks. The world began to transform. That single, reliable patch of grain allowed for something unprecedented, a village. Huts, no more longer temporary shelters, became more permanent homes clustered together. The very fabric of society started to change. Children, instead of being constantly on the move, could play safely within the village clearing. The sounds of a community began to fill the air, women laughing as they pounded grain into flour, men working together to build fences to protect their precious crops from wild animals. The roles within the tribe evolved. While hunting was still important, the men's focus shifted to protecting the settlement and the fields that sustained them. The women became the primary keepers of this new agricultural knowledge, passing it down from mother to daughter, refining techniques, and domesticating different plants. They became the first farmers, the first botanists, the first providers of a stable community. Life was still hard, but it now had a rhythm, a predictability that had never existed before. This story of Nira is a way to imagine a pivotal moment, but the history it represents is very real. Archaeologists and historians tell us that around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, this exact revolution happened, almost simultaneously, in different parts of the world. In the Fertile Crescent, along the great river valleys of the Tigris and the Euphrates. In Egypt, along the life-giving Nile. In the Indus Valley in modern-day Pakistan and India. And yes, even in the islands of Eastern Nusantara, what we now know as Southeast Asia. Independent sparks of genius, likely driven by women just like Nira, who observed, questioned, and experimented. They weren't just planting food, they were planting the seeds of civilization. This surplus of food, this ability to stay in one place, allowed for everything that followed. It allowed for specialization. Not everyone had to be a food finder anymore. Some people could become potters, creating vessels to store the grain. Others could become weavers, builders, leaders, or storytellers. It created the time and the security for art, for culture, for governance, for science. Our entire world, every city, every book, every invention, rests on the foundation built by these first farmers. It all began with that one woman, a handful of spilled grains, and a spark of curiosity. From her hands, the first agricultural revolution bloomed, changing the destiny of humanity forever. We often celebrate the great kings, the warriors, the inventors. But perhaps the most influential person in all of human history was a woman whose name we'll never know, who first looked at a seed and saw not just a meal for today but a promise for 1,000 tomorrows. So the next time you see a farmer's field, or even plant a seed in your own small garden, take a moment. Remember Nira. Remember that you are repeating that same ancient, sacred act. A small gesture of placing a seed in the soil. A gesture of hope and trust in the future. A small gesture that, quite literally, changed the world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories about the moments that shaped our world. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.